Folks, what just happened this weekend is the kind of moment that the media prays you forget by Monday morning. But we're not going to forget because you saw it, you felt it in the heart of America. President Donald J. Trump, he stepped onto that stage and the crowd, not just big, historic. A wave of red, white, and blue went on for blocks. Veterans in their uniforms, families with their kids on their shoulders. Flags were everywhere. The chants were deafening. The energy was electric. This is the kind of roar that you only hear when people know that their leader is fighting for them. And while all of this was happening, the Democrats, they were eating their own alive. Jasmine Crockett, one of their rising social media stars, dragged through the mud by her own party, guys. I'm talking staffers leaking horror stories, party insiders calling her a diva who's never at work, and even her public comments, they're turning into a political liability. Guys, we are talking pure humiliation about Jasmine Crockett out in the open from the very people who were supposed to be protecting her. It's unreal. It is unreal what's happening to the Democratic Party. And so here's the twist that the media will not talk about. While Trump's movement is growing stronger, more united and more patriotic by the day, the Democrats, they can't even hold it together long enough to avoid backstabbing each other. Guys, in the next couple minutes, we're going to be breaking down several things, including exactly why Trump and his rally shattered expectations and why the media is terrified to admit it, how Bernie Sanders' so-called fight the oligarchy tour fell flat in Trump country, and the inside details of why Democrats are turning on Jasmine Crockett in such brutal fashion. It's wild. And trust me, guys, by the time we get to the part about, how this all connects to the bigger 2025 political battlefield, you're going to understand why this weekend wasn't just a rally. This was actually a warning shot. So if you appreciate the news updates, please click the like button and subscribe. Thank you so much for your support, guys. August 9th, 2025. This is a date that the media will either bury in the back pages or twist so much that it's unrecognizable. Why? Because the images from this weekend, they don't fit the narrative that they've been selling you for years. President Donald J. Trump walks onto that stage and instantly you feel it. The roar, it's not just loud, it's historic. People packed shoulder to shoulder, kids on the shoulders of their parents. The barricades, from the barricades all the way past the camera's edge, the kind of crowd that you can't manufacture, you can't fake it, and you certainly cannot ignore it unless you're just legacy press. Flags are waving, veterans are saluting, kids with MAGA caps too big for their heads. I mean, they're chanting USA at the top of their lungs. Guys, this isn't just another Saturday. This is a movement that's so strong that the establishment's only defense is to pretend it's not happening. So why is the media scrambling to try to crop the photos and change the angles and move on to the next story before the ink even dries? Well, it's because if you saw the full picture, the thousands beyond the lens, you would know exactly how much trouble the Democrats are actually heading into the next fight. And so speaking of Democrats in trouble, while Trump was packing arenas and turning overflow parking lots into cheering sections, Bernie Sanders, he was in deep red West Virginia, waving the fight the oligarchy banner. The message was class warfare, anti-corporate rhetoric, the same tired stump speech that he's been given for at least a decade. So now here's the thing, guys. West Virginia isn't just red. They're ruby red, okay? And Bernie Sanders, he thought he was just going to parachute in, rally the locals, and make a splash. But the turnout, nowhere close to what President Trump pulled in, not even in the same galaxy. In fact, the crowd was smaller. The energy was flat. It was almost dead. It looked more like a college lecture than a political movement. Picture it side by side, right? Trump's rally, you got a stadium-sized sea of patriots, diverse in age, background, and purpose, versus Bernie Sanders' modest gathering of mostly the same activists who were with him years ago. There's no new people there. I mean, one looks like the future and the other one looks like a relic, some ancient artifact. And so here's the real question, guys, for anybody who's watching this. Which movement is actually growing? And which one is actually surviving only because the media keeps it on life support? And if you think the Bernie Sanders crowd was weak, wait until you see how Democrats actually spent the rest of the weekend publicly tearing down one of their own. So here's the truth. Plans change every single year. They do. Your doctor who's in network now, he might not be in network next year. This is why I partner with Chapter, to make sure you're always on the best plan for your needs. Leslie Taylor, she saved $1,000 a year after they reviewed her options. And Nancy, 78 years old, she said her $600 per year savings could be the reason why she gets to stay in her home. I mean, this just kind of like, makes you feel like really good inside, right? Medicare rules, they are not slowing down, and neither should you, okay? So just let Chapter look ahead so that you never get caught off guard. It's totally free. There's no cost. It's fast. They're super friendly. Oh, and when you do call them, just tell them Ron said hello, okay? Seriously, I love their reaction when you say, hey, Ron told me to call, and what they say after that. So anyway, you should see a phone number down below. Call them right now. Phone number is 909-563-8279. And give this phone number to your friends, to your neighbors, to your friends at church who are over 65, because there are so many people who do not know that they're overpaying for Medicaid or for Medicare. And it's almost a crime. And in some cases, it is a crime how much they're getting over on people. So give our friends at Chapter a call. Now, here's where the difference between a campaign stop and the true leadership becomes crystal clear. Trump, he didn't just show up to bask in the cheers. He actually delivered. The speech was packed with policy, not platitudes, economic revival. He laid out a roadmap, bringing manufacturing back home, cutting the red tape that strangles small businesses, and protecting American jobs from foreign exploitation. Border security. He doubled down, not as a talking point, but as a promise to keep American communities safe and to restore law and order at every level. And the crowd, I mean, you could barely hear him over the cheering when he was talking about protecting Social Security, boosting veterans' benefits, and defending the American family. Would anybody be okay if Trump were to boost Social Security, SSI, SSDI? Guys, that's the thing that the media never wants you to see, the compassion from Trump. Because behind the fighter image, this president genuinely connects with the people on the ground. Listening, shaking hands, hearing their stories, and remembering a lot of their stories. It's wild. Every policy that he rolls out ties back to one mission: making life better for the American people. Now, if you compare that to the chaos inside the Democratic Party, they can't even get through one weekend without tripping over their own messaging. And you're going to see exactly what I mean when we dig into DC's so-called crime decline and why Trump's not buying it for a second. So the legacy media, they were busy patting themselves on the back this weekend, pointing to official stats showing violent crime in Washington, D.C. is down. They're going to tell you homicides are down, assaults are down, and they're going to act like the city's turned into some kind of a utopia overnight. But here's the truth. Numbers without context are just numbers, okay? Ask the people who live there, the ones who lock their doors in broad daylight, the ones who won't ride the metro after dark, who've seen their neighborhoods change for the worse. You're going to get a different story. Is anyone living through those situations right now? I want to hear your story, guys. Trump's not buying the spin. He knows the only way to make those numbers real is to make the change permanent. And that means more than cherry-picked data points. It means fully funding the police, putting more boots on the ground where they're needed, introducing economic programs to cut off the roots of the crime, and streamlining the justice system so that criminals are not back on the street before the ink on their paperwork dries. This is the kind of plan that you roll out when you're serious about results. And it's exactly why Trump's crowds just keep growing, while the Democrats are steadily bleeding credibility. So if you think that the crime numbers are a stretch, wait until you hear about the backroom games that the elites have been playing for years and how Trump refuses to play along. The Tim Cook gold bar story, it's worth sticking around for. So here's something that the establishment hopes you're going to forget, because it kind of blows the lid off of how politics have worked for decades. I mean, you remember when tech titans and corporate giants thought that they could just buy influence in the White House? So there's a story from years back, Tim Cook, Apple CEO, handing over a symbolic gold bar and a cozy photo op. Now, back then, this was the game. You scratch their back, they scratch yours. But here's the problem. That game was never about you. It was always about keeping power locked between the elites, far away from the working families footing the bill. President Trump, he has no interest in playing that silly game. What does it say? What does the phrase goes? play silly game, win stupid prizes or something like that. He doesn't take gold bar bribes. He doesn't bend to corporate wish lists. His administration is built on one principle: policy for the people, not perks for the privileged. And so while President Trump's out there refusing to be bought, the Democrats, they're tearing each other apart in public, and it's brutal. So you couldn't script it better if you tried. Jasmine Crockett, one of the Democrats' alleged rising social media stars, just got the kind of press that no politician wants. Okay, her own party insiders leaked to the New York Post that she's an abusive boss, screaming at staff, skipping work, office work, basically obsessing over her influencer image instead of serving her district. She cares more about how many new followers that she's gotten or how many more likes she got on her Instagram post than anything else. Can you believe that? And they didn't stop there. Sources are saying she freaks out over the most random things. Can you imagine Jasmine Crockett just freaking out over the most random things? Spends more time in her apartment than in her office, and has created a toxic environment that's so bad she once reduced an aide down to tears. Crazy. She got people crying in her office. And the phrase that really stuck: all diva, no wow. And here's the kicker: these are not Republican attacks. These are fellow Democrats eating their own. Guys, this tells you that just how bad things have gotten behind the scenes. Like when your own team starts leaking stuff like this, it's not just a bad week. This is a political hemorrhage. And Jasmine Crockett's public behavior, that's a whole nother story entirely. And it just makes the whole private meltdown look tame. Okay. So what we need to talk about, though, we need to be getting into how her profanity laced attacks on President Trump backfired and made the contrast between her and a disciplined, policy focused leader impossible to ignore. So if you really want to know why Jasmine Crockett is in hot water right now, you don't even need the leaked staff reports. Just look at how she talks in public. She's on record calling President Trump a piece of bleep, right? Comparing him to Hitler and, even promising to knock out political opponents. Now, I don't know about you, but let's pause right there just for a second. If a Republican ever said that about a Democrat, you would see wall-to-wall outrage. MSNBC, they would be running it on loop. CNN, they would bring in body language experts and they would be calling for the resignation of whoever the Republican is that would have said that. Guys, the Republican would have to resign before the press conference is over. You see the two worlds. It's like such a hypocritical scene here. But here's the real contrast. While Jasmine Crockett's out here hurling these playground insults, President Trump, he's in front of tens of thousands delivering a focused, unifying, policy-rich speech. No cheap shots, no gutter talk, just a leader mapping out how to rebuild the economy, secure the border, and protect the American way of life. And the people in that crowd, they notice. Okay, they know the difference between a leader and an attention seeker, and they reward it with loyalty. So Jasmine Crockett's rise inside the Democratic Party, it's not an accident, it's a symptom. Party leadership has decided that TikTok views, Instagram likes and followers, and viral moments matter way more than legislative wins or a real constituent service. So it's why Crockett's antics didn't just slide under the radar. They were celebrated. The Democrats have built this bench of politicians. They're influencers first, and then they're lawmakers second, or probably even further down that list. But you see what I'm saying here, guys? Meanwhile, Trump's inner circle, this is built on results. Policy-driven, strategically chosen, aligned with the mission of delivering for the American people. Now, you're not going to find them skipping work to film TikTok videos or screaming at their staff. You're going to find them negotiating trade deals, drafting legislation, and fixing problems. This is the split screen that America's seeing right now. So one party is turning governance into a social media brand, and the other one's putting in the work to actually run the country. And so, speaking of Democrats picking the wrong battles, wait until you hear what Khalils Pro Palestinian comments, the bipartisan outrage that they sparked, and how the same party that's turning on Crockett has no problem defending that. So you want to see the Democrats' hypocrisy in real time? Look no further than Khalil's recent statements. This is a man who openly justified the October 7th terror attacks, called them necessary. He even dismissed the slaughter of civilians, including women and children, simply because they're Jewish. What? Let that sink in, guys. That's unbelievable, isn't it? So we're talking about hostage taking, forcing victims to dig their own graves, the worst. And Khalil brushes it off like, as if what had to be done. I can't even make this stuff up. So now here's where it becomes even more twisted. There's a bipartisan outrage over all of his presence in the United States, okay? Leaders from both sides are saying, well, why is he even here? Deport him. Do you think he should be deported? If you do, let me know. And yet, the same party that's publicly humiliating Jasmine Crockett for being a bad boss has people quietly defending Khalil or even pretending it's not worth talking about. So let me just go ahead and ask you, what kind of party tears down its own for petty power plays, but turns a blind eye to rhetoric that actually fuels extremism and anti-Semitism? So now I want to zoom out to the international stage for a second, because this weekend's contrast isn't just about rallies and internal party drama. It's really about leadership on the world stage. So under prior leadership, Democrats oversaw negotiations that cut Ukraine out of its own defense strategy. They allowed Putin to set the terms, Zelensky to be sidelined, and key fortified territories to be put on the chopping block. It was weakness on display, and the world noticed that. Now, if we fast forward to now, President Trump's approach is entirely different. It's America first diplomacy. There's no backroom deals that sell out our allies. There's no negotiating from a position of weakness. None of that, okay? We ain't doing nothing like that in here, okay? President Trump is making it very clear. The United States will engage with strength, protect its own interests, and stand by our allies who respect our commitments. This is the difference between reactive and being strategic, okay? And just like the crowd at Trump's rally, America's allies, they can tell the difference. They know when they're dealing with a leader who actually means what he says. And speaking of different rules for different people, wait until you hear about the JD Vance kayak trip story, right? And how the media's reaction tells you everything that you need to know about their double standards. So here's a perfect example of how the game is rigged. Senator JD Vance decides he wants to spend his birthday kayaking. Does anybody have a problem with that? Now, except the Army Corps of Engineers raised the water levels in an Ohio river just to make the trip more enjoyable. Now just imagine if a Republican the media didn't like had done that. If Kamala Harris, for example, had ordered a river's levels be changed for a family trip, it would have been kayak gate for weeks. CNN, MSNBC, late night comedy, they would all be circling like vultures. But because it's one of their own, the press shrugs it off like it's no big deal. Meanwhile, they dissect every Trump handshake, every rally sign, every word of his mouth, out of his mouth, looking for something to twist. This is why Trump supporters are so loyal. They see the bias and they see the double standards, and they're done playing by a rigged playbook. If y'all see that it's rigged too, let me know if you see it's rigged, okay? So this kind of brings us back to that rally, because that crowd wasn't just big, it was a message. Tens of thousands of people showing up in person. This isn't just enthusiasm. This is clearly political capital. This is a visual, undeniable statement that the movement is alive, is expanding, and is ready to fight for the future of this country. Now, Bernie Sanders, he got some headlines. Jasmine Crockett, she got some gossip coverage. But Trump, he got the people. And in politics, the people are what really matter. Every flag in that crowd, every chant, every hand-painted sign, that's grassroots energy you can't fake, guys. You can't manufacture that in some press release or a TikTok clip. This is real. It's growing. And I think that this is exactly what keeps the establishment up at night, okay? And if you think that rally was just about the speeches, wait till you see the visual contrast between Trump's America and the Democrats' mess. This is really where the optics war is being won right now. So picture this, right? President Trump on stage, flanked by veterans in uniform, Gold Star families in the front row, American flags rippling in the summer air, parents holding their kids so high up on their shoulders so that they can see the president with their own eyes. The energy, pride, unity, determination. Now, flip the channel, right? What do you see from the Democrats? Bernie Sanders preaching to a half-filled crowd in West Virginia? Jasmine Crockett under fire from her own party? Khalil's extremist comments hanging over them like a storm cloud, and headlines about insider leaks, staff meltdowns, and division? It's not just bad PR. This is a visual that screams instability. So on the one side projects strength, competence, and patriotism. But the other side looks like they can't even run their own team, let alone a country. So here's the thing. You don't need a political science degree to see which image is winning. The American people decide based on what they see and what they feel. So right now, the optics are rather clear. And the Democrats, they don't like what the mirror is showing them. So here we are. On the one side, you got a president who commands the loyalty of tens of thousands of people in person, who shows up with a plan, delivers on his promises, and inspires people to stand shoulder to shoulder for the future of this country. Now, on the other side, you got a party that publicly tears down its own, defending the indefensible and relying on the media to safety net behind and hide the damage. The divide couldn't be any more obvious or any more important, because this isn't just about one rally, guys, or one weekend or one headline. It's about the direction that America chooses to go from here. So I'm gonna ask you right now, which America do you want? Do you want the one that roars with pride, unity, and purpose? Or do you want the one that can't even keep its own house in order? So if the media won't tell this story, we will. That's what we're going to do right here on this channel, as we always have. And if you believe that the truth matters, hit the share button right now. Get this video out to someone, to everyone you know, and make sure that they see what really happened on August 9th, 2025, because history is being written and you're a part of it. And before you go, YouTube thinks you're really going to enjoy the next video that just popped up on your screen right there. They're suggesting it because it connects directly to what we just covered. So click that video now and I'll meet you over there so that we can keep this conversation going. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below.